walked on the scene and had everything they needed to be able to build huge cities. I think that they were visited, that they were taught by, as they say, these shining ones who gave them all the things that they needed. Maybe these were huge ships. Maybe they were in the shape of pyramids. Maybe they were in the shape of saucers. It's difficult to say. One thing's for sure. They're not worshiping the ships, which is what you would think, natives would do if they were confronted with off-world beings highly advanced. They actually worshiped the beings themselves. They drew them. They carved them. They gave them names. They talked about their missions here on the earth.
Did they live with them? They must have for a while.
Yeah, sure. They lived with them. And in the second book, we talk about a 300-year span when the Shining Ones stayed. And this was between an area known as Izapa all the way to Palenque. And they not only stayed, but they interacted with the people. One of the kings, his name was Pakal, handed over his throne to his son, and this is carved in a sarcophagus
Lord
lid.
Pakal, they called him, right?
Yeah, right. And he also had other names. People called him Votan, but this is actually a different person. Votan and Pakal are different people. That's a mistake a lot of people make. He was very, very tall, and he had 6 fingers and 6 toes. And so did some of his offspring. We show pictures of this in the 3rd volume. And it's pretty remarkable that this 6-finger, 6-toe aspect is a characteristic of Nephilim. It is a characteristic of these off-world beings. Now, there weren't many of them. Records show somewhere between 100 and maybe 300. Many people say 200. That's not many for a whole planet. So it wasn't enough to conquer a world, but it was surely enough to teach a world.
So the visitation occurs, they're around for 300-plus years. Why did they leave? Why did they leave them?
It's possible that during that particular alignment of the planet with the Milky Way, they had a window that they could stay. And if they passed beyond that window, there was no chance for them to leave the planet. We face, similar situations when we plan a space mission. When we plan a mission to Mars, we plan it so that Mars is on the portion of its orbit where it's closest to Earth. If we wait beyond that window, we pretty much have to wait a year to launch. It's much longer than that, maybe as much as 2,000 or 3,000 years before a ship could launch again. And if we're talking about this planetary alignment like we're talking about the 12 zodiacs, they might have to wait 20,000 years before they could leave again. They might not have had that kind of lifespan.
And the date, of course, December 21st, is the beginning of the winter solstice.
Yeah.
How important is that, Brooks, to this?
Well, it seems to be coincidental. We did really try to find a connection between the winter solstice and the December 21st, 2012. And many people, experts, say it's December 23rd, 2012. And some are saying it's not 2012 at all, it's 2011. But we really could not find a solid thing to hang our hat on that the winter solstice has something to do with it. Could be stellar alignments. It could just be a coincidental date. But the fact that the Mayans have this very, very accurate calendar that resets at that time on that date, and they've been right so many times on other things, it seems like a piece of evidence you wouldn't want to throw out.
That is going to be a remarkable time period as we get close. But how come the warning's not coming from any scientists? Nobody. I mean, I'm not talking about the climate change and the earth changes. I'm talking about what we talk about with the Mayan calendar.
Well, define science. Only for the last 100 years or 120 years have we had technology. Prior to that, we were riding horseback the same as we were 6,000 years ago. So you really need to define science. Right now, there seems to be a revolution in science. We call it paranormal. That's why your radio program does so well, because there are literally hundreds of millions of people out there that know better, because they can see the evidence for themselves. So when you say, scientists are not really getting behind this, it's usually scientists that are the second or third in line when it comes to stuff like this.
Might they one day say, as we get close to 2012, maybe we should listen to these people?
Well, nobody wants to be the first to say, Earth is round or heavier than air flight is now possible. You want to be the second or third to say that, so you're not embarrassed. And I think that's what we go through in science. Fortunately, since 1996, 1997, people are getting access to knowledge like never before. I call the Internet the new Gutenberg press, and it's really having an effect on how fast technology doubles and how far and wide the technology can spread. So we are going to see science, if that's what we want to call it, make incredible inroads. In the next 20 years, just in health effects alone, we're going to see the major diseases cured, maybe even aging slowed down to nothing. My brother, who works at Johns Hopkins, not trying to give them a plug, recently told me...
Well, they're a good medical center. You should.
Yeah, well, he evidently, they've been doing some genetic research on hair growth, and he called me not long ago and said, we will comb again. So... that's probably worth billions right there, more than anything else. And I think a cure for diabetes is just around the corner.
All right. So with all this going on, there are a lot of people are just saying, okay, we're going to be around then. 2012 is not too far away. What do we do? What do we do to survive it? What do we do to get through it? Can we get through it? What do we tell them?
That's such a sweeping question, because there are people who really believe if they can't have their vacation property and their ski resort, they don't want to be here. They don't want to go through a cataclysm like this. There are others who do want to survive. And, we don't want to just survive. We don't want to be hunter-gatherers. We want to preserve some of our technology, some of our records, so that after this is done, and it's not going to last forever, maybe 20 or 25 years, and things are going to settle down, and we're going to emerge as a race again, and we're going to rebuild. But, when all the smart people are gone, all the mechanics and the engineers, it's not the secretaries and the house painters that are going to put the world back together. Somebody has to remember how to do stuff. I mean, I can work on a car, but I can't mine the iron and smelt it and cast my block and machine it and all that stuff. You have to have the basic technologies to keep going. And that we have to start right away preserving. So do you build yourself a shelter and go underground and weather it? Do you go to a high mountain? Or do you look for an opening into the inner earth and see if we can survive as a race like we've done in the past?
You talk about the fact in the book that the Earth is not from around here. Explain that.
Well, I say that because when we look at the makeup, the chemical and mineral makeup of the Earth, it doesn't match the other planets in our solar system. It doesn't match the neighborhood. And recently we've learned that the Milky Way had a collision with the Sagittarius galaxy, and it appears that at least one planet, possibly Earth, is adopted from that galaxy. Take into consideration that in our first book we talk about a phenomenon called the union of the polarity. This is something that's clearly outlined in multiple ancient traditions, and that is that the Earth is actually made of two different phases of matter: a higher energy matter, which many call spirit matter, and a lower energy matter, which some people call temporal matter. These two are occupying the same place in space right now in harmony with one another. But as we get close to this rift in the Milky Way, they're going to be pulled into disharmony, and they're going to come apart.
And if this happens?
Well, some religions call it the rapture. Others say that the earth, at least a portion of it, is going to go into the fifth dimension, and all of the life forms